show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. Of course, we're coming to you apart from our regular time, Sundays at 6:30. It is Memorial Day weekend. There was a lot of wrestling to process here. We want to thank you for joining us, whether it's live or whether you join us later on a rebroadcast. We appreciate you finding us. And we're glad you're here. We are the podcast by the fan, for the fan. We are powered by Lopez Pizza. We are built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. Of course, my name is Never Wrong Nick Bull. So glad that you found us. So glad you joined us. Hope your Memorial Day weekend is going great. Hope you're having a great time with family and friends. Hope everything is going well. It should be, because there was a lot of wrestling to watch. And I'd be remiss if I did not introduce to you my tag team partner. He is one half of the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions. He is the one. He is the only. He's not Billy Gunn. He's not the one Billy Gunn. He's the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. And if I'm not Billy Gunn, then you can't be Chuck Palumbo. I'm just throwing that out there. I know that's a dream of yours to be Chuck Palumbo.
Dude, so we can be Billy and I love that tag team. I love those guys pop, man. So
they did.
Talk about Chuck and Billy all day. But how's your weekend going? A lot of wrestling, and let's talk about what you did on Saturday. Before all this wrestling hubbub began, you took a little road trip up to the Great White North.
I did. It was. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there. It's been a long weekend. Saturday started out. I left the house about 8:30 Saturday morning, headed up to Rochester, Minnesota, for the Midwest All-Star Wrestling Show. More important than the show was the meet and greet ahead of time. Our good friend Crander Q over at the Friends of the Squared Circle podcast set up a vendor table for me, for us here, Card Subject to Change himself, and for Indie Talk with Jesse and Jaron. We shared a table, met some cool people. I got to reintroduce myself to Fred Ottman, Tugboat, Typhoon, the Shockmaster, the BADD, Big Steel Man. Very cool to see him again, and I hope he's not offended by my impression. Imitation is the highest form of flattery, after all.
Did you kiss the new Hall of Fame ring?
No, I did not kiss the Hall of Fame ring. Other notable names, I got to meet Tito Santana briefly. I got a picture with him. The Mountie was there. I did not stop and chat with the Mountie, but I did wait in line to talk with the other 2025 Hall of Fame inductee, Hall of Fame award winner, Lex Luger. Very cool, very down-to-earth guy, nice guy. Shook my hand. I said, I didn't talk about the Lex Express. I'll be honest. I thought.
Well, that was my next question. I was going to ask you, was the Lex Express there?
No, it was not there.
Okay.
But I did. I'm not going to lie. One of my favorite memories of Lex is when he won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship from Hulk Hogan, August of 1997. Brought it back to the WCW from the NWO, and I shook his hand. I said that was one of my favorite moments. He said, "Man, that's awesome. I appreciate that." So
that is cool.
We made some new friends, got some new followers on the Facebook page. If you're new to the Facebook page, thank you for following and liking. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to see our entire archive, you can go over to YouTube, find at CSTC podcast over on YouTube. Catch up with our episodes that you may have missed. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did not stay for the entire wrestling show, and part of me feels bad because I love watching indie wrestling. I love watching all wrestling, but being at an indie show, it just after a 4.5 hour drive plus about 5 hours sitting out in the sun, 3 of which were during the meet and greet, 2 of which beforehand when we were getting set up. It was just a long day, and I crashed pretty hard at the hotel I was staying at. I'm not gonna lie.
I hear you, man. I hear you. But it sounds like a good time was had. You met some legends. You made some new friends, and of course, you were around other wrestling fans as well. This was all before Saturday night's main event. Of course, if you're here joining us for episode 195 of the Card Subject Change podcast, we're going to try and break down Saturday night's main event, NXT Battleground, AEW Double or Nothing. We got a lot to get to. So you caught Saturday night's main event a little bit later due to you traveling for this wrestling show that you went to. I watched it live. And be honest with you, I really thought the first match popped with Braun Breaker and Seth, Sammy and CZ. Crowd was into all 4 guys when they came out. A great, fast, fun opener for a Saturday night's main event. And of course, the big, the first issue of big news in the wrestling world this weekend is that Rollins, Heyman, and Breaker, this irresistible force has only gotten stronger now by the adding of a third member. And that third member introduced themselves at the end of that match.
Yes, in a big way. Just plowing CM Punk through the barricade, distracting Sami Zayn and costing their team the win. And this is the last. I'll say this right now. This is the last time I'm going to do this, because now that he is with Seth Rollins and company, I don't think it's respectful for me to pronounce his name the way I'm going to. But joining the faction is Big Bronson Reed.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be announced that way anytime soon.
No. I don't know why it's stuck in my head, but Chelsea Green was announced that way, and Bronson Reed, Chelsea Green, very similar not in the name itself, but in the way it's in the pronunciation. And for some reason, I got it in my head that it'd be hilarious if he got announced like Chelsea Green at least once, but I digress. Not going to do that again. All the respect in the world for Bronson Reed, and welcome to the party, pal.
I'm glad he's back. I think a relatively, a shocking moment. People knew he was coming back, just not when. The last time we seen him, I believe, was it War Games?
Yes.
When he broke his ankle going off, or jumping off the cage and landing in the ring.
Table. Yeah.
So we hadn't seen him for quite a while. So him being back is great. We now see the Heyman, Rollins, Breaker triumvirate, come to 4 now. I've seen a meme right after it comparing them now to Evolution. They've got Heyman playing the Flair part, Triple H playing the Rollins part. Your Orton would be Braun Breaker, and then your Batista would be, of course, Bronson Reed. So I love that match. I thought it was a great way to start the show. And I honestly thought that match might have ended the show. But when it started it, I'm like, okay. And I love if you're not first, you want to be last. They made a big impact. Great opening segment to Saturday night's main event. They got the ball rolling again, great. And they just picked up where they left off the last one. It was a good program.
Yes. Very, very good program. I enjoyed it. I watched the main event live. Because I was at the hotel at that point, but I caught the rest yesterday early afternoon. I think my favorite part about Saturday night's main event, though, has to be R-Truth. Has to be that new shirt. The Ron Cena shirt is just amazing, and I think everybody in the world needs that.
This match was what it was supposed to be. John Cena, in his attempt to ruin wrestling, is not going to dazzle the fans any more than he can. But when his biggest fan R-Truth comes out to Cena's music as well, wearing a Ron Cena shirt. I mean, it was a fun, like, yeah, it's serious. John Cena turned heel, and he's going to retire. He's threatening to retire with the championship. But here's where comedy in wrestling seeps in, and you can have the comedy in wrestling. And dude, that place popped when R-Truth came out to Cena. R-Truth was effectively John Cena that night, and he has always been committed to whatever he's done. I know I've talked about Chad Gable that way, but R-Truth should be mentioned in the same manner, as they just go completely in on whatever they're doing at that moment. And
Yes.
it made that match wasn't a great match by any means, but it was perfect for what it was, for the cheating, John Cena who wants to ruin wrestling. That match was perfect. That's what it needed to be like. But those guys
needed to be, in my opinion.
Exactly. And those guys, R-Truth just nailed it. He absolutely nailed it, doing the whole John Cena thing. And, that moment in that match when Cena's holding the belt and he's going to come hit Ron Cena with it. And he, gets rid of it, but then kicks Ron Cena, low blow. And come on, can we stop having low blows in wrestling?
Yeah,
I've seen enough of them. And I'm talking to you, WWE. I give you guys a lot of credit on here, and I'm going to, but we got to stop with this low blow stuff, because we'll talk about it later, if not on this show on the Kickout. I mean, there's too many low blows recently. We got to get away from that trope.
Yeah, I don't disagree. We see it quite often, way too often for my taste. And once in a while, great. Treat it like you did the pile driver when Kevin Owens was hitting that after it hadn't been hit in years, and not every single time. Treat it as something that is revered and there to be like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. They need to reel that in a little bit. Otherwise, the only thing I could complain about on Saturday night's main event, the Zelina Vega Chelsea Green match was kind of meh. And then when you get Zelina Vega botching a 619 and breaking Chelsea Green's nose, that did not look good.
Yeah.
And then what'd you think of Jesse Ventura completely losing his mind after the cage match was over, on how the cage match ended?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to bring that up too.
Good.
My God.
I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying, because in every other cage match in the past, you've seen the face win how?
Usually pin, or they climb over.
Bingo. Pin or submission, or they climb over. They don't walk out the door. And that's what Jesse had a hard time with.
And I can see his point. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Excuse me. Damian Priest is the face in the situation. And to me, him just walking down the steps, that is a heel move, in my opinion.
Yeah,
the way he left.
I mean, I felt bad for it was Joe Tessitore, and was it Wade Barrett? No. Who was it? It was Pat McAfee.
McAfee and Cole.
Didn't Tessitore did it with Ventura. He and Ventura were together.
But they weren't on commentary together. They were
correct. But the people that were calling the match with Jesse
were Cole and Pat McAfee.
Graves were like, Pat and Cole were like, those are the rules of the match. I think they were caught off guard with how Jesse reacted, but that's what you brought Jesse back for.
Right.
You brought Jesse back for that over-the-top contrarian at the table. And I'm not opposed to what Jesse was saying, but I could not believe he wouldn't drop it. Like, he just kept going and going and going and going. It kind of made me chuckle.
Maybe that was intentional, and maybe they didn't tell Cole and Pat that was going to happen, but maybe that was intentional. But at the same time, knowing Jesse Ventura, maybe it wasn't. Maybe he just went off on a tangent.
Very well could have. The main event, I figured we would have seen Cody at the end of Saturday night's main event, and that's what happened. He comes back to help Jay out after a run-in. Logan Paul and Logan Paul and John Cena were beating down Jey Uso, and that's when
Cody's music hits. The crowd goes.
Cody's music hits, shows up, and then a challenge is made as Saturday night's main event goes off the air. A challenge is made by by Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso to John Cena and Logan Paul for a tag team match at Money in the Bank. We're assuming it's a match, but that match was challenged as we go off the air. Cena and Logan Paul were not able to even comment because they went off the air.
Right. I would imagine that gets made official tonight on Monday Night Raw as we broadcast this live.
Yep, there'll definitely be talks of that on Raw tonight. Lot to get through here. We're glad you're joining us. I'm Never Wrong Nick Bull. He is the Wizard CZ. This is Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we couldn't do it without our sponsors. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. We're breaking down the Memorial Wrestling weekend that was. Memorial Day weekend wrestling that was. Just kind of brushed over Saturday night's main event there. There's so much more to talk about. Don't know what direction you want to go here, CZ, because we're starting to see this now. And I know TK had some thoughts about it last night in the post-conference scrum. You know, WWE starting to run head-to-head now with AEW. Some people see it as bad taste. Other people say it as open competition. Some people think it's making the wrestling fan choose. I know where I was at last night. We had a monitor on for both, but sound on for one. So which way do you want to go, and what do you think about these shows running head to head?
I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
And I will throw out a quote from Eric Bischoff and just my mindset here. Eric Bischoff has always been known to say controversy creates cash. And that is what we're doing here. We're adding to the controversy, but competition brings the best out of both people or both companies. And I think having them run head to head, that's only going to inspire more competition and inspire them to up their game. Especially I'm looking at you, Tony Khan, because you need to up your game back to where you were a year or two ago, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I think they've gone downhill, and this may be the opportunity to say, okay, we're still here to play.
And many people would say last night's offering from AEW was, in fact, a good pay-per-view. They would argue that there were some good matches on the show. Let's go that way. Let's go with AEW's Double or Nothing. Of course, this is the 6th anniversary of AEW doing Double or Nothing. Mm-hmm. A lot of things going on coming in. We've got, the Death Riders, the stranglehold they have on the division, Jon Moxley as your champion. We had Monet defending, facing Mina Shirakawa in the Owen Hart final. We had Hangman Page, Will Ospreay in the men's.
Monet was with Jamie Hayter.
Jamie Hayter, I'm sorry. Mina Shirakawa was against Tony Storm.
Yes.
Boom, boom, boom. All these people are involved. A big card. 9 matches, not counting the pre-show, 9 matches on the main card. And I'm telling you, I've watched this show. There was stuff that I enjoyed about it. There was stuff that didn't matter to me.
Right.
And there was stuff that, I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching this show.
And before we really get into it, I want to kind of talk about my scenario where I was. I was down at our good sponsor, Lopez, with the wrestling crew, our good friend Timothy Regal, Alex McCarthy, and others. So I enjoyed it down there, but we also had 2 monitors going, one with Battleground, one with Double or Nothing. But Lopez was packed a majority of the night. and we did not have the audio on for either. So not having the commentary kind of takes me out of it a little bit when I'm watching live events, live pay-per-views. It's different when you're in there. For me, I'm hit and miss whether I want the commentary while I'm sitting at a live event on the indies.
Right.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. More often than not, you don't have that commentary going out to the crowd. From my experience at indies, but neither here nor there. Watching a live pay-per-view from one of the big dogs and not having that commentary, not hearing what the crowd reaction is, kind of takes me out of it. Not only that, but AEW's feed was on the TV above my head. So I'm sitting at the corner, around the corner of the bar. The TV is up here to my left, and I had my chair turned, but I'm still kind of craning to see it. So wanting to be interactive with the wrestle friends that were down there and wanting to be interested in the show, it's kind of hard because I've got to turn back and forth. I was sitting in that chair for a good 6 hours, having gotten there around 4:30, and then I left. I did not see the last two matches. Between a 4.5 hour drive yesterday morning and then 6 hours sitting on an elevated bar chair, turning back and forth, I was wiped by about 10:30. So I did not see the main event, and I did not see, are they called Paragon now? Is that, or Paradigm?
Yeah, you missed out the Paragon 6-man, which is Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong against the Don Callis family, who was Konosuke Takeshita, Josh Alexander, and Kyle Fletcher. It was a match that they threw together on Thunder, I think, the other night as they were kind of going off the air. And as the way the pay-per-view was going and how things were, that they didn't need that match. They could have went right to the championship match, and I think it would have made the pay-per-view better. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure where you want to start off with, but I'll start with the championship match. CZ had left the party due to where he was sitting and the length of the show. I was able to watch Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. My thinking going into this match was, who needs this more? Who needs this more? My rationale of thinking, Will Ospreay is going to be Will Ospreay. He doesn't have any titles right now, but he doesn't really have anything to prove right now.
Right.
I'm sure he'd love to be champion, the AEW champion. Hangman Adam Page, on the other hand, is kind of on this redemption arc. He's faced his demons. He's done some stuff, and now he's trying to prove to himself that he can do it. It just seemed to me that this was more of a story than Will Ospreay winning. And I just felt there was no way that Hangman was going to lose this match, because if he lost, then what? Because there's no interference here. It's the Owen Hart. There's no run-ins, I believe, kind of with the Continental Classic. There's no run-ins, no outside interference. But it's an unbelievable match. It's definitely in AEW's top 10 matches. I could argue it would be in their top 5 matches. Hangman was really, really, Hangman rose to the occasion. What Will Ospreay is bringing to the table, but I thought Hangman exceeded my expectations in this match. And it was 35 minutes. So good story was told, a lot of back and forth, crowd hanging on everything. And the ending was right, how it ended. Some unbelievable false finishes. I thought there was 3 different times this match was over before it was over. But kudos to these guys. And I guess, complaint or a critique of AEW has been, oh, they're not using their own talent. You know, they're using all these WWE guys, blah, 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 blah. I think having Hangman Page in that spot, in that challenger spot for Jon Moxley, for the Death Riders, for that world championship at All In is the right move. And that's a guy who's been in there since day one, and who better of a day one AEW guy to be the guy that goes back on top of this company.
So you think that Hangman is going to take the belt away from Moxley at All In?
I do. And then I think we get a rematch of
right.
Hangman Ospreay at Forbidden Door.
Okay.
In O2,
well,
in the O2 Arena in London. But
right. That makes a lot of sense. Maybe. But my only problem.
I said maybe. Maybe I kind of can see things going that way. Of course, who knows, you know? But I think enough people would want to see the rematch between those two, and this time with Hangman as champ.
Yeah, I can see that. My only potential issue with that is, as Ospreay doesn't need the title. Tony Khan is notorious for people winning in their home state, home city, home country, home what have you. I don't want to see the title hot-shotted between Hangman and then to Ospreay. I don't want to see Hangman be a traditional transitional.
I don't know. I mean, I'm down. I'm here for it because everybody's kind of like adopted this. We need to have these year-long reigns with everybody. And I think that's going to be dangerous to a point where people aren't going to be interested anymore. I mean, you don't want to hotshot it every week. But
right.
I could see where Ospreay takes it off Hangman if Hangman does beat Moxley. I just after last night, I don't see how Hangman is going to be denied.
And that'll be good because I was doing some little research. It has been October since Jon Moxley won the AEW championship, and it has been that long since it has not been featured anywhere live except inside a briefcase. And we've talked about
there
that
again last night. The briefcase was used.
We've talked about that briefcase in length in the past. I'll briefly say my opinion. I hate it. I think the title needs to be prominently featured. It's a representation of your top guy in your company, who you consider the top guy in your company. It's a representative of your company to have that world title featured. But like I said, we've talked about that at length. Hopefully you're right. I am rooting for Hangman to win. That would be his second championship reign with the AEW title,
second.
or third?
I think his second.
Second. That's what I thought too. I've only fallen into AEW in the last couple of years, so I wasn't a part of his first title reign. That's why I'm a little fuzzy on that one. But no, if he wins the belt from Mox, I'm going to be ecstatic. That means the belt will be featured again. You'll be able to see the top prize in their part of the industry, and it needs to be featured. This almost year-long run where it's been hiding in a briefcase is ridiculous.
Yeah, he is a one-time AEW World Champion, a one-time Tag Champion.
Okay.
So there you go. So no, I think it's great for AEW. Now they're trying to build to All In, which is their next pay-per-view. They did announce a 4-hour broadcast coming up on June 4th on TBS and the Mac and Max. A 4-hour special from 7 to 11 on June 4th. How many pictures is that going to have? Wednesday? No. 20? Yeah, they announced that last night. So what that means, I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it here, and I'm sure it'll be discussed at some point once we find out more. But a 4-hour show, you got to think they got some big matches lined up. They're going to have to for 4 hours on television. So
Yeah.
that remains to be seen. But with All In, now you got 2 matches. You got Mox and you've got Hangman Page. And of course, you've got Mercedes Moné, who was victorious over Jamie Hayter. She'll be taking on Toni Storm, who was victorious over Mina Shirakawa in her title defense. Those 2 matches are now set for All In. And
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to like the result of one of those matches.
I think you're correct. You're leaving a pit in my stomach, and we're just gonna not even talk about that. I mean, let's talk about it. Let's throw it out there. Might as well. We're talking about the Owens finals. We might as well talk about the women's. It wasn't a bad match between Monet and Jamie Hayter, in my opinion.
Good match.
I enjoyed it. I don't care for Mercedes Moné, as has been prominent on the show. We've talked about that at length. But this wasn't a bad match. I really wish that they would have given the nod to Jamie Hayter, but great meme I saw earlier today where Mercedes Moné probably pulled the Hogan card and said, "That's not going to work for me, brother."
The Mercedes and Toni Storm match is more appealing to me than it would have been Jamie Hayter. So those 2 will do great. The promos up until then will be great. I mean, I think Mercedes is going to win. I just think she will, but I don't know. We'll see. It'll be a good match. And Toni Storm is going to be great. Her promos leading up to it are going to be must see. She's been on a roll so far, and they're going to need her big at All In. Those are the only 2 matches we know so far. I'm sure they'll add another 15 in the next however long it is till that show. But
and I know the scuttlebutt. The rumor is that Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada will meet and they'll unify those titles. That's been the rumor. That's been the
rumor. Both men were involved in matches, of course. I don't know if I'm going to break down. We're going to break down every match here that was on Double or Nothing, but I'll give letter grades and stuff here at the end. But another match that of course, the Anarchy in the Arena. I don't know. I mean, it has a spot. There was some fun parts of this match that I enjoyed, but we could have cut 10 minutes off this thing. It was 35 minutes. Like, we could have went 25, in my opinion. What'd you think of the ladies being added to where it was a 6-on-6?
It was an interesting twist. I'm not the biggest fan of intergender interactions unless it means something, and both women definitely got involved with the men at one point or another, but this didn't leave as bad of a taste in my mouth as I thought it could have with them mixing it up with the guys.
Didn't John Moxley put a chain through Willow Nightingale's hoop in her ear? A padlock. Chain and a padlock. Boom. What the heck?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Oh, man.
Let me ask you this, because
no, I did not like the Young Bucks ring gear. Next question.
Okay, that's not where I was going, but no, I didn't either. So the match is called Anarchy in the Arena, and there was a lot of talk about it going outside the arena. What did you think about them going out into the street?
Doesn't bother me.
Briefly.
You have to do something different at that point. You got 12 people involved. That didn't bother me. They were still outside on the arena grounds. That didn't bother me one bit.
That's fair. I was okay with it, but I know that was a big topic for some of the people down at Lopez last night. That's why I asked what your opinion.
That doesn't bother me per se. No. That match was fun. There were some fun spots. I don't think I needed to hear Drowning Pool's bodies 4 times in a row, but I did.
Then maybe I should be grateful that the sound was off at that point.
Kenny Omega coming out with the Captain America garbage can, the Captain America shield with the Omega symbol kind of made me chuckle. Swerve Strickland as Predator, Matt and Nick Jackson as Founding Fathers. Like, it's like a costume party. It's a costume party for the match.
It's like wrestlers cosplaying as other things.
But it was a fun match. Now, was it my favorite match on the show? No. I thought the best match on the show was Paige and Ospreay. But the Anarchy match had its spot. A match I really liked was Kazuchika Okada and Speedball Mike Bailey. This was a lot of fun. These two seemed to really gel together. I think we're going to see these guys again down the road. They just seem to work well together, and the crowd seemed to be responding to both guys. So I think they need to run it back and somewhat quick with these two.
I would not be opposed to that. They did a good job. Speedball, I've had my eye on him on the indies for a long time. He's fantastic. He's a good in-ring performer. He has a lot of skill and a lot of things going for him. That was a good match.
It was a good match. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to sit here and break it down move for move. I will tell you, I thought it was one of Okada's better matches in AEW, for sure. And then what you get with Speedball Mike Bailey, and it just was amped up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back and watch a match from that show. I'm going to go back and watch the main event, and that's the second match I'm going to watch. I really liked it. And it's certainly, God, man, Speedball Mike Bailey special. Like, I was talking to the guys I was with watching the show last night. I'm like, this guy was the big guy to get on the indies, and he chose AEW, which I thought was a big deal.
Yeah,
I think WWE could market him maybe a little better, but I think Speedball Mike Bailey's kind of been more on the wrestling side of things as opposed to being the character. So I think he kind of thrives better maybe in AEW. But I'm not saying you won't see him in WWE someday. But I hope that they keep him relevant. I hope that they do something well. Keep what with him, and losing to Okada like he did is not bad. I mean, he probably comes out better after this match, even after losing.
Right.
But brush over a few other matches real quick. We had Ricochet and Mark Briscoe in an ambulance match.
Well, they call it a stretcher match, but essentially an ambulance match.
What did you think? Was that busted open the hard way, or was that a blade job by old Mr. Mark Briscoe?
Ooh.
We thought he got busted open on the stretcher, on the metal part of the stretcher, as he was getting his head banged.
Yeah, I think he got it the hard way.
That was, dude, he looked like he was in the Devil's Rejects. He just covered in blood.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. And they didn't even give him a chance to get cleaned up before he showed up at Anarchy in the Arena.
No, not at all. Not at all. When he came back out, I'm like, oh, my God. Get this guy a bottle of water and a towel or something. But, yeah, he really looked the part when he came back out as part of Anarchy in the Arena. Some other people got involved. There was some thought maybe Darby Allin would show up, but I don't know if he's even back.
We were thinking Eddie Kingston.
I don't even think he's back in the country yet, right?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Either.
We were thinking at Lopez that Eddie Kingston would show up.
That's a good. You know what? I wonder if we see him at All In. I don't know what he's. I don't know. That's a guy that, you know what, I didn't even think of last night is coming back. But that's good. That's a good guy to think about. He'll be back soon. Sometime this year.
Yeah, he's got to be on his way back.
I really love the Hurt Syndicate now with MJF as a part of them. MJF with those guys. I mean, come on. We all see where this is leading, right? MJF and Bobby Lashley at some point.
Let me ask you, though. There was a lot of speculation last night on this match of someone showing up as well. And I think I'm glad that he didn't, because I think it's too early in the MJF story, but when does Cedric Alexander make his appearance in AEW for the Hurt
See,
Syndicate?
I don't know if he's been signed. That's a good question, though.
I don't know that he's been signed either, but that was another person that everybody was expecting to show up on this match and just kick the crap out of MJF.
And will they make Cedric Alexander his apprentice? Oh,
maybe.
I want MJF in the Hurt Syndicate as long as possible because I know this can't go very long. I mean, it's going to be him and Lashley. It's going to be him and Lashley at some point, and Lashley just beating the ever-living crap out of him. It's going to be great.
You've got two completely different styles of heel. You've got the smarmy chicken shit, full of himself bastard, and the complete ass kicker. And when those two finally connect in the ring, that's going to be
I just love the whole MJF being a part of them. And the "We Hurt People" chant, dude. This might be the best thing I think AEW's got going right now. Is the Hurt? The people love the Hurt Syndicate. They absolutely do. Now with MJF being a part of them, I don't think it's a long-term thing. What lasts longer, John Cena's heel run or MJF and the Hurt Syndicate?
Oh, Cena's heel run by a long shot. I think it will too, opinion.
But it's still fun to watch. And I absolutely enjoyed that part of the pay-per-view. Another match I liked that thought it went a little long was FTR against Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. Dude, to see my favorite tag team against my favorite Ring of Honor guy of all time with Nigel McGuinness, that was really cool. I understand the story they're trying to tell, and with Shivani getting involved and all that. I get it. I like that Stokely Hathaway's with FTR, and I just don't know what's next for FTR. Do they go after the titles? I don't know.
Who's
going to go after the titles? Because you gotta have somebody to go after the Hurt Syndicate. I know you and that Mark Jeremy are big Sons of Texas fans, but we can't have Sons of Texas on every pay-per-view.
No, that's fair. We can't. I mean, let's break it down this way. The Hurt Syndicate, FTR, the Bucks, the three top teams in my head right now are all heels. Am I wrong?
No.
I mean, the Hurt Syndicate is over, but they are very much heels. And I don't know. I can't think of a good face team that could step up to challenge the Hurt Syndicate. They
don't have a good enough face threat, in my opinion. I mean, I think you feel the same way.
No, I agree. And I mean, here's the thing. You can get away with a face versus face match. You can almost get away with a heel versus heel match, but it just isn't the same. You need that good versus evil element, in my opinion, at least for a team like the Hurt Syndicate. And there's just not a good guy team that can step up right now.
That remains to be seen, unless I don't know. I can't.
I'll put it to our fans. If you're out there, if you're watching live, if you're listening after the fact, drop a comment on our page. Who do you think the Hurt Syndicate should who should challenge for the Hurt Syndicate next? Who's the biggest team that stands in their way next?
Fair enough. Any more matches or thoughts you have concerning Double or Nothing before we go on and talk about NXT Battleground?
I think we've touched
on
everything.
There was nothing else. I know there was more matches, but overall, I would probably give Double or Nothing a. Due to length,
what I saw, I'm
going to punish them for length. I am going to take off for that because that didn't need to be a 4.5 hour show with 9 matches. There's just no way. So I'm going to go with I'll give it a B plus.
See, you're more generous than I am. I was going B minus.
No. I'm giving it a B. I'm giving it a B.
Fair. I'll put that minus behind the B from what I saw. But that being said, I also did not see the Hangman Ospreay match, and that would probably have bumped my letter grade up a little bit.
Yeah, solid B, and that's not, I mean, it was a good show. It was a decent show. They should have trimmed the fat, and there's no way it should have been 4.5 hours. I'm sorry. They got to get this problem remedied.
And it's a consistent problem. Especially
like
going to have this weekend. It doesn't matter.
It's perfect. So I mean, maybe we're just being too nitpicky. But I think that's the genuine complaint the general complaint that I hear when I talk to people about AEW is that their pay-per-views are too long.
And especially on a Sunday night. This weekend is an exception, being Memorial Day weekend with Monday being a holiday, but when you're outside of the football season and you're running your shows on a Sunday night when people have to get up to work in the morning on Monday, 4.5 hours going until almost midnight, way too long.
I agree.
Way too long. But no, let's that wasn't the only event this weekend. We've talked about 2 so far. There was one more. And this is only the first weekend this summer where AEW and WWE are doing this to us. We'll talk about that a little later.
Right.
But NXT Battleground, what a fun show that was. I watched it this morning. I watched it partly this morning and partly this afternoon. But yeah, I watched it in full today. What a great show. I enjoyed this top to bottom.
Yeah, it's hard for me not to really say anything bad about NXT because I really enjoy what they put out there. This was a 6-match card. Right. At the party I was at last night, we had both shows on, but the volume only on for Double or Nothing. So I did see some things last night, but I went back last night and this morning, to fill in the blanks, see how things went down and all that. It's just the beat goes on for NXT. The beat goes on. Like, they don't miss the beat.
Would it be fair to say that if NXT were a wrestler, it'd be Gunther for you?
Maybe. Well, maybe I'll think of another wrestler. Maybe that's like an up and comer that I love. But no, I really like. It was a fun show. You had title matches. You had some backstage stuff. You had in-ring segments. It's night and day difference when it comes to production. It's night and day difference.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shots missed in WWE, and there was a shot missed.
And NXT had a 6-match card, but as opposed to the 9-match card of AEW that went 2 hours longer, Battleground was only a 2.5-hour show, even with 6 matches.
What I'll let you lead us here on the NXT, which way you want to go, because I feel I can talk about each match, any match, and the show itself.
So, we can skip around a little bit, but I'm going to just start right at the beginning. That Women's North American Championship match. I am a big fan of Sol Ruca. I think she has endless potential, and her finish.
I was gonna ask you about that Soul. That Soul, is it what is it called? The Soul?
Is it I'm not sure if it's the Soul Stealer or the Soul Snatcher. I don't remember off the top of my head right now. Snatcher. Just a beautifully executed cutter, and coming off the top rope, doing that flip into that. Wow. She has some brilliantly athletic abilities, and I'm amazed. And that's not to take away from Keilani Jordan. Keilani Jordan is a good athlete in her own right and former North American champion. But, yeah, these two delivered in droves, but Sol Ruca, the sky's the limit for her, in my opinion.
Is it safe to say, is that your favorite finisher right now? Yeah.
I would say so, yes.
It's something to behold. She's special, and I think what they're doing, they're trying to bring her along because she's not really the best on the mic, and that Zarya that was with her at ringside that got thrown away. I think something's going to come to a head between those two. And that's when we're going to see the next development in the character of Sol Ruca. We're going to see her go from this aspiring rookie to stepping up her game and just, becoming what I think, them down in WWE developmental and NXT have seen that, or think that she can become. I think she's a star with just how athletic she is.
Yes.
Like they'll be able to find a spot for her on the show. Like with what she does, and it's not a knock, you can almost bill her as an attraction with how athletic she is and the risks that she takes. So it's a win-win for WWE. You're getting a new character and a new person for fans to look at and look. And the fans have known about her for some time, but you're seeing her and she's doing these things right before your eyes, and who's going to make the main roster. And I think she's definitely one that's going to make the main roster. She's got it.
Oh, I agree. Fantastic athlete. I'm anxious to see what she does. And I hope before she does get called up to the main roster, we see her holding the NXT Women's Championship, the main title on NXT.
I think so.
I think we will. I think agree. It's only a matter of time.
I think it is too.
Speaking of the NXT Women's Championship, notice what I did there? Good transition. Pat myself on the back.
Easy there. Easy.
Stephanie Vaquer is out of this world.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Grace is fantastic too. Don't get me wrong, but Stephanie Vaquer is by far, hands down, the future of the business, and she is destined to be a multi-time, not just NXT, but WWE Women's Champion, in my opinion.
What'd you think of the match?
The match was fantastic. I enjoyed it.
I think this might have been the best match on the card.
I think you're right. And I think you're correct. I mean, look at your name. You're never wrong.
I've been saying for months, I think Vaquer was the best women's wrestler on the NXT roster. I think she is in the conversation for best wrestler on the main roster. She's good, and I hope this can continue for her, because when you're good like this early, remember how Asuka was. I just hope it doesn't end up like Asuka, where, it didn't quite end up what it should have been. I don't think they're going to mess this one up.
Right.
I think they know they've got a natural. Like, she's a natural. And she's so good.
With Asuka, though, it was a little bit of a different story, because she had the backing of Triple H, but not quite the backing from VKM that she did when she got up.
Correct. Different time period. Totally correct. Totally correct. Now, Vaquer got this job in WWE from the match she had with Mercedes Moné at Forbidden Door last year. Boom. They gave her an offer before AEW even thought about, hey, should we bring her back type of deal? So they knew, everybody's seen, that was probably one of Moné's better matches of the run. Look who she wrestled. I just think Vaquer is special, and there's big things coming for her.
Oh, by far, such a tremendous talent. I can't wait to see what she does too.
I know. And that match with Jordan Grace was great. And you know what? People are like, oh, Jordan Grace. I'll tell you what. Jordan Grace is in the best women's division in the world right now. And she's going to get up on that main roster. She doesn't need to be up there right now. And it's not a knock if she is.
Right.
It's the same way with Vaquer. There has just been.
And she's going to hold. She's going to hold the NXT Women's title before she. And
this isn't the last time those two are going to wrestle, Vaquer and Jordan Grace. Like, that was a really good match. They want to do that. Like, I'm looking forward to the rest of my Memorial Day after we get done with this show is probably starting that NXT show over again and watching it. Like, I just really I want to watch that Vicaire Jordan Grace match again because it was that good. It was my match of the night on the women's side.
Yes, 100%.
What did you think about Obafemi and Miles Bourne? Miles Bourne wins a battle royal to get this chance. Has went on this kind of mini run, cutting promos. Of course, if you're not familiar with Miles Bourne, he is legally deaf, partially mute, so he does have a speech impediment. But he's been, cutting promos. The crowd's been behind him, and he won this opportunity to take on the ruler in Obafemi. It can't get any easier than this. Obafemi, you can't get any harder than this, excuse me. Obafemi said on NXT the other night to Miles Bourne in their in-ring segment, this isn't going to be a Disney movie. There's no happy ending here. I was worried how they were going to handle this. I don't know why I worried, because they handled the match perfect. Oba still looked like a beast, and he didn't make Miles Bourne look like a chump. Like Miles Bourne looked like he belonged. And I think this is going to raise some tension between Miles Bourne and my boy Charlie Dempsey from No Quarter Catch Crew. It more where, come on. Charlie didn't fist bump him on the entrance on the way out. The world saw that. So there's definitely trouble is afoot in the No Quarter Catch Crew. And I think with how Tavion Heights handled business in getting a match by going about it the right way, as opposed to the way that Charlie Dempsey wanted him to, and the way that Miles Bourne, we're going to see some matches coming up. I don't think the No Quarter Catch Crew is going to be around much longer.
Yeah, I that breakup is kind of the writing's on the wall there, but that's not a bad thing. That's going to give them the chance to excel by themselves. And while I know you're a huge Charlie Dempsey fan, and I'm a big fan of his as well, he doesn't need to prove himself. He's already already there. He could be the NXT champion at any time just by them pulling the trigger, in my opinion. But Miles Bourne coming into this match, you're right. He did not look like he didn't belong there at all. Oba still came off looking like the big monster that he is, but Miles held his own and looked damn good. And maybe not in the world they don't call it the world title. Maybe not in the NXT main title picture very long right now, but definitely going to hold a championship at some point. Even if it's the North American, which the North American Championship, give that some credit. It's a fantastic title, and it's had some good
and it's getting defended on Tuesday night. We had an in-ring segment with Ricky Saints, and staved off a run-in from Ethan Page and was able to jump out of the ring onto Ethan Page to kind of set the tone for their match on Tuesday night. So if you can't if you missed this show, give them a chance on Tuesday because they got a title match scheduled. So I'm trying to think what else was on this NXT show. So much wrestling going on this weekend. We hope you've been able to catch some of the wrestling. And we hope you've enjoyed this little sojourn, this whirlwind sojourn through the events of this weekend. Anything else from NXT catching your eye? Tony D'Angelo and Stax Lorenzo.
Yes.
Stax Lorenzo, where is that going to go now? Kind of surprised at the ending that Tony's shown some vulnerability and Stax was able to win.
And after the match, you've got Luca Crucifino, who's standing there to watch the ending, and Tony shoves him away.
Yes. Well, I think Tony knows that Luca Crucifino and Stax Lorenzen have had they're connected. So that's not over yet. And I don't know, it's cheesy. The mob scenes they shoot and the sit down dinners, but I love it. And that's why I love NXT. So, and you can't take that from me.
It's fun. It's fun. Only other real match on the card that we haven't talked about, that we're not probably going to touch on too much, is the Culling versus Hank and Tank and Josh Briggs. The biggest part of that match happened after the fact when There was a beatdown. There was a big brawl, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The young Japanese gentleman who said he was going back to Japan is now back in NXT.
Uemura. I forget his name. Gosh darn it!
Yeah, I do too. And
Inamura. Yep.
Yoshiki Inamura.
I had it right in front of me. Match. Hank and Tank are pretty hot right now in NXT. To go out there in a 6-man, I thought they did okay. The crowd seemed to be into the match the whole time. I mean, it was just it was a match for me that was on. I really didn't have any vested interest in either side, but I didn't think it was too bad.
Right. No, I didn't think it was bad. It was a match that was there.
Right. You're absolutely
it's a match
right. Match that was there.
Now, at this point, Nick, our listeners and our viewers are probably thinking, well, there's one more match you haven't talked about. Well, we're going to do something we don't usually do. We are going to stop talking about NXT Battleground for today. The reason for that, the match in question has so much historical value that we are saving it for the returning episode of the Kickout this Wednesday. So we will be recording that momentarily. If you want to hear our thoughts on Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry, you're going to have to tune into the Kickout 6 p.m. Wednesday right here on our Facebook and YouTube pages. But any overall letter grade for Battleground for you?
I will give Battleground give him a B plus.
Yeah, I'm right around there. I'm right in that wheelhouse there for sure. Who had the better show?
I mean, you're going to get a million different answers from it. It all depends what you're out there looking for. If you like a shorter show, NXT, 6 matches, clocking in at 2.5 hours, if wrestling is great for you, and it worked out perfect because Sunday night, Memorial Day weekend, Monday's a holiday. You can stay up late on that Sunday and watch a 4.5-hour show. But I just can't do 4.5 hours every pay-per-view. That's not.
And that's
the
the
trend. And you got to think All In's going to be the same way. So I don't know. That's their brand. That's how they're going to be. There's parts of stuff WWE I don't like. So I don't know. But what show do I like better? I gave the better grade to NXT, but I mean, I don't know. Paige and Ospreay was pretty good. I'll lean towards AEW. I penalized AEW for being 4.5 hours. So
I can't speak on that match because I didn't see it. I'm gonna find a way to watch it because of everything you've said and everything I've read about it. But for me, NXT had the better show, but that's just my opinion. I think they had a better stacked event. It was not keeping me up until 3 a.m. watching wrestling. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just an old man.
I couldn't finish NXT last night. I got about halfway through and I had to go to bed. So I'm an old man too. I stayed up as late as I could.
Well, Nick, before we wrap things up, I want to make a big announcement here. We had some difficulty with this guest. Not
because of the guest, because of the guest.
No. There was some severe weather in her area that prevented the show. We had wanted to reschedule her for May for this month, but that was not able to be worked out. But I am pleased to announce that coming up June 22nd at a special start time, 3 p.m. that Sunday, we are finally going to welcome Jeannie Basone, Hollywood, the original Glow Girl, here talking about wrestling, talking about her book, Hooray for Hollywood. I'm super excited, Nick, to have her back on. We had her on briefly for a good 10-minute interview at the Sandra Lee Memorial Car Show, the 3rd annual last year. kudos, shout out to Ricky Lee. Love you, Ricky, for putting on that event and having us be a part of it. But no, couple of weeks here, middle end of June, we're gonna have Hollywood on, and I'm super excited.
June for a wrestling fan is big. It just got bigger here. We'll be celebrating our 200th episode. That's right. That'll be our 200th episode. We'll have Hollywood Jeannie Bassone in the studio with us to talk, of course, all things wrestling, and of course about our book, which I have not completed yet, but I've got started in. It's whether you're a wrestling fan or not, I think you'll like it. Oh, look at this guy. Look at this guy.
I have not finished it either.
You're making your way through it.
But making my way through it. I fully intend to have it finished by the time she's on.
I agree. That'll be coming up on June 22nd. That is our 200th episode with original Glow Girl Hollywood as Jeannie Bassone. Partner, I think we have wrapped up things here on the Card Subject to Change podcast. Of course, we are the podcast by the fan, for the fan. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. He is the Wizard CZ. I'm never wrong, Nick Bull. Wiz, we got any other stuff we need to throw out there before we skedaddle?
No, just a reminder, tune in on Wednesday to hear our thoughts on Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry on the 30th episode of The Kickout, the final word in professional wrestling. But until then, for my co-host, Never Wrong, Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ, and this is Card Subject to Change. We'll see you right here next weekend for another fantastic episode.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube.